What if I told you that adding more sets, more reps, and more volume to your training isn't the answer? In fact, it's probably the reason why you still look the same after months or even years of training. Now I know this firsthand because it wasn't until I stripped back my entire training routine that I was able to make the best gains I've ever made. So in this video, I'll show you why all your training hasn't worked, the little mistakes holding back your gains without you even realizing it, and how to train so you actually see results. So to help you visualize this, I want you to think about tempered glass. You know, the glass that you can hit all over a million times and it never break, but then you tap the corner and the entire thing shatters into like a million pieces. Yeah, so you see, that's kind of how I was training. For years, I was doing 4 sets on pretty much every single exercise. And because I wasn't getting the results that I wanted, I thought, okay, logically, I'm probably not doing enough. So that means I need to add more sets, more reps, more volume, more training days, which took my training from simple to overcomplicated. It took my training days from 45 minutes to an hour and a half to 2 hours. But not only that, I'd gone from 3 or 4 days up to 5 to 6 days a week. Yet I was still not seeing any results. And we all know when you're a working adult, it's not realistic. So I had no choice but to strip back everything and focus again on the basics. And that's when my progress finally exploded. Instead of hitting the glass loads of times hoping it was going to shatter, I focused on more precise strikes. You see, the secret to building muscle isn't in more sets, more exercises, and more training days. It's in trusting the simple basics that most people give up on too soon. But why is it that their progress stalls despite knowing these simple basics? It's usually because of 4 subtle mistakes that most people overlook. Now, this first one is one that I see 99% of people in the gym make, and it's probably the biggest reason why people aren't building muscle. Now, I want you to think about this like when you go to a fairground and you know where they've got that game where you hit the hammer and it goes up and then it hits the bell. Well, in order for the bell to ring, you need to hit the button with a certain amount of force. And when it comes to your training intensity, it's no different. You need to lift heavy weights with high intensity. That means it's going to be uncomfortable. But the biggest problem is most people stop at the first sign of discomfort. Stopping as soon as you feel a bit of discomfort guarantees that you are not pushing your sets close enough to failure. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go to failure every single time. 1 to 2 reps from failure is a sweet spot. One way to test if you're actually training hard enough is to record yourself going to failure, because then you will see where the reps start slowing down. You'll be able to look and say, okay, I probably had 1 or 2 reps left in the tank, or maybe even more. Because the thing is, if you think you probably had a few reps left in the tank, you definitely did. That's a good rule of thumb to follow. Now, this second one's especially important when paired with the first mistake, because it's not going to allow you to hit that true intensity. And I see this every single day. In fact, I saw it yesterday when I was at the gym. So somebody was using a machine and I wanted to use it. So I asked if I could jump in between whilst they were resting. Now, keep in mind, I was only doing 5 reps. So my set was 30 seconds-ish. As soon as I finished my set, the person was ready to go. That also ties into the first problem of why they're not training with enough intensity. Because if you're training hard enough, you need more time to rest. And the reason I say this is because short rest times don't allow for enough recovery for your following set. You mean to tell me that after doing 5 reps, high intensity, eyes popping out my head, damn near gasping for air, that I'm just gonna, get back on the machine and do it all again 30 seconds later? You must be mad. All it does is diminish the quality of your training session as time goes on. So make sure that you're resting at least 2 minutes, at least. You'll also know you're not resting enough if the number of reps you hit drop dramatically. Now, this third mistake is a massively overlooked one because whilst it may seem innocent, it actually leads to massive problems down the line when it comes to building muscle. We've all heard the example of building a house on sand versus stone. And this is the exact same. When choosing exercises, you need to consider 2 things. Is it safe? And can I easily progress on it? Meaning, is it easy for me to add weight to this machine? Because if it's not stable and you're trying to move heavy weight, it's like you're pushing on sand. If in order to progress, you need to make massive weight jumps, then it simply just not a good exercise. If it puts you in a compromising position where you may well injure yourself, then it's not a good exercise. This is one of the reasons why I like to stick to machines, because I can push hard, so it's stable, and then I can also add small incremental weights to it so I can continue to progress. I know you've seen the videos where people's neck gets trapped on the bench press, and that's not going to be me. But be sure not to substitute comfort for any of this, by the way. If an exercise feels nice and you progress with it well, then I mean, by all means, stick with it. Now, this mistake is actually one that I fell into the trap of because I listened to all of the advice online, and it led to me having a big chest and big back, but tiny arms and shoulders. I kind of look like a beetle. So it makes logical sense. If you don't have much muscle, then you need to build up muscle everywhere. So you need to take a balanced approach. However, that's not always necessarily true. As much as you're told to build a balanced physique, at the end of the day, if you want bigger arms and shoulders, you are going to have to prioritize your arms and shoulders. Now, I recommend that everybody train legs. However, some people genuinely couldn't care less about their calves. Some people don't ever wear shorts. And that's fair. So, they don't really need to put much of an emphasis on them. Would I say to not train them at all? Maybe. But, I mean, they might only do a few sets a week versus if they want to look good in a t-shirt, they may want to train chest, shoulders, and arms way more. Because the harsh reality is, muscles don't grow in a balanced fashion. You have to focus on certain muscles at certain times. So you'll go through phases of building certain muscles. And then you'll switch to others. That muscle will start to look big and then others will fall behind. So then you'll switch to that. You can't just build all the muscles. You can't just put volume into everything, or else you're going to be training for ages. And then worse yet, your training is going to be rubbish anyways. So a fix for this is to focus on certain muscles during certain phases and then switch to others once you're satisfied with the growth on the previous muscle. And that's quite literally the journey, just building up lagging muscles. But all this knowledge is useless if you're missing the one key ingredient that actually drives results. So watch this video to learn what this key ingredient is and how to leverage it so you can finally get lean.